The Invincible comics have never shied away from showing brutal and gory deaths in their pages, with many deaths being permanent to leave a lasting impact. As the story of Invincible reached its final arc, we explore the time when our two protagonists, Mark and Eve, reached their seemingly brutal end. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Death of Mark and Eve. Who's next? In issue number 130 of Invincible, Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, who was still suspicious of Rex Robot's motives, heard how much Earth developed under Rex's leadership. Rex pointed out how despite the people being scared, they were safe and fed, how steps were being taken to make sure no harm came to the people, and it was not just the heroes who stepped up under his leadership, but also the villains. Ever since Rex agreed to fulfill the goals of the villains, their past actions became less and less important, and they became productive members of the society. More and more people had gone on to agree with Rex's perspective, and those who didn't were also not interfering with the flow of things. Even Mark's father, Nolan, aka Omni-Man, had come around to see the wisdom in Rex's actions, and they grew close as a result of that. After hearing out Rex, Mark asked Nolan for a conversation alone, and the father-son duo flew off to space to discuss further about Rex. Mark immediately questioned if Nolan was actually siding with Rex, the side of a killer who was responsible for the death of many to be in charge of a whole planet. Nolan understood where Mark's lack of trust was coming from and mentioned how it was hard to even make Eve visit Earth during Mark's absence, but he asked Mark to think rationally for once instead of being emotional. Nolan began pointing out how Rex had power over Earth for around 5 years, but all he had done for Earth was nothing but good. He ended poverty. The people of Earth were living happy, long, and healthy lives, and there was no conflict except for a recent attack. Nolan saw this as anything but a great opportunity to rebuild the Viltrumite population. Nolan went on to mention how Rex used to work from the shadows initially by influencing important people and supporting policies, and with time he became the face of everything he had done to the point of the Global Defense Agency going public and appointing Rex as their leader. With people being aware of the good Rex had done for them, he was voted to be the next president, but turned down the influential position. When Mark was quick to retort that Rex was aiming to be the king of the planet, Nolan pointed out how he could have done that with all the superpowered people on the planet taking orders from him, but Rex still didn't do that. Mark questioned whether Rex could have been responsible for the invasion by the inhabitants of the other dimensions to make himself appear good, but Nolan believed that Rex had always been working for the greater good, though Mark still couldn't make himself come around to trust Rex. Mark, Eve, aka Adam Eve, and their daughter Terry soon moved out of Nolan's place on the moon and found a new house to create a new life for themselves. Mark's half-brother, Oliver, was revealed to be in cahoots with Thrag, working for him against the coalition of planets. Thrag, on the other hand, called his children, Onan and Ursel, to reveal their new mission, to kill Mark Grayson. Issue number 131 opened with Thrag contacting Oliver to reveal that he had found Mark's location and was planning to kill him as revenge for destroying Viltrum, but wanted Oliver to cause no interference in the issue despite Oliver pleading with Thrag to not move forward with his plan. Mark, Eve, and Terry had been enjoying a bright sunny day when they were shocked by the arrival of Onan and Ursel. When Onan picked up Tara by her t-shirt, Mark quickly flew towards him and gave him a good punch and then handed Tara to Eve to get their child to safety. Before Eve could go far with Tara, Ursel grabbed her from behind by her right leg, leading to her prosthetic breaking off. Eve tried to defend herself and Tara using her force fields, but when Ursel started to overpower her, Mark had to interfere by punching down Ursel. Eve then told Mark to leave with Tara to get her to safety, as she decided to fight the villainous duo herself. But despite this strategy, Eve was only left to fight with Ursel while Onan went after Mark and Tara. Eve tried to outsmart Ursel by covering her head with an energy ball to not let her see, but Ursel quickly broke out of it and hunted down Eve inside the house. Eve tried to attack Ursel while hiding underneath a large hole inside the house's floor, but it couldn't weaken Ursel. Ursel, despite complimenting Eve's powers, taunted her that fighting back was useless against the Viltrumite and death would be inevitable for Eve. But Eve asked her to get it over with if it was so easy. Meanwhile, Mark tried to fly upwards as much as possible, but couldn't manage to outfly Onan, while Terra started to face breathing issues due to the high altitude. When Onan grew closer, Mark had to punch him away with Terra in her arms. Mark asked Terra to hold her breath as he tried to go far, but Onan quickly made his return, forcing Mark to put Terra on his back and fight Onan hand to hand. This turned out to be a very risky move, as Terra lost balance during the fight and fell off Mark's shoulders and into Onan's hands. When Mark tried to reach Onan, he quickly tossed away Terra as he held back Mark, bringing this issue to a close with Terra's life hanging in question. Issue number 132 opened with Onan grabbing onto Mark and taunting him that he would leave Mark alive enough to be able to clean up Terra's remains, making Mark tear up as Terra continued to fall. But things started looking up for a minute when Terra unlocked her power to fly. But it didn't remain that way when Thrag showed up to grab Terra by her foot. Terra tried her best to fight Thrag and not be intimidated, with Thrag complimenting how she would have made a good soldier one day, but then grabbed her head, seemingly trying to crush it. Terra was saved from sustaining any injuries with the sudden arrival of Oliver, who pushed away Thrag and held him off as he asked Terra to reach her father. Mark, meanwhile, decided to use his full strength on Onan, resulting in a bloody fight which ended with Mark breaking Onan's nose and then flying away to search for Terra. Mark soon arrived at their house, with Eve still fighting Ursel, and ended up the fight by grabbing Ursel by her neck and then bashing her head on the ground hard enough to leave a hole. Eve asked Mark about Terra's whereabouts, and he mentioned there was no signs of Terra on the ground where she would have fallen. The couple then decided to fly and search for Terra, hoping that she was still alive. Terra, though, was still near Oliver and Thrag, who quickly overpowered Oliver and punched him to a mountain's wall, as he told him that Oliver never really sided with him and didn't want to be home with his own people. Terra tried to kick Thrag from behind, but before Thrag could harm Terra, he was stopped by Oliver, whose guts were punched out by Thrag, leading to his death. As Terra sat in front of Oliver's body with tears bursting out of her eyes, Thrag told her to not be afraid, as it wouldn't do her any good. Eve and Mark quickly showed up, holding Onan hostage by his neck, and asked Thrag to not kill Terra. Thrag then revealed to them how Oliver betrayed them all this time, and when he didn't let Thrag kill Mark, he became dispensable. Thrag taunted Mark for being a hero, as it meant that his son was in no real danger, and this heroic nature would be the reason why everyone around Mark would die. Mark proved his threat by decapitating Onan, which infuriated Thrag, and the two engaged in a fight while Eve went to Terra to find out that she had broken her foot while trying to kick Thrag and made her a plaster for her leg. The mother-daughter reunion was cut short by the arrival of Ursel, who punched Eve to the ground to the point of completely breaking the bottom of her face, while on the other side, Thrag pulled away both of Mark's hands, cutting his torso in half as he told Ursel to let Mark and Eve die a slow death as they saw their helpless daughter, and to let Terra die alone in the wilderness, flying away from what remained of Mark's family. Terra sat on the ground in front of her parents' bodies as she begged them to not die, with blood smeared on her face and tears coming out of her eyes when she saw a bright light appear in front of her. Out of the bright light came out a fully formed Eve and Mark, making Terra overjoyed and hugging them after seeing them alive. Mark questioned what they went through, as Eve revealed that it was similar to when Conquest nearly killed her. It unlocked the full strength of her powers, which allowed her to recreate their bodies and even heal Terra's broken leg. Terra questioned Eve for not recreating Oliver, to which Eve revealed that it was already too late for Oliver. Mark apologized to Eve for being selfish enough to ignore his duties and expressed that they needed to end Thrag's reign of terror, as Eve pointed out that they needed to fight back if they wanted their lives, bringing this issue to an end. Marvelous verdict. Invincible is a story that continuously reinvented its status quo for its characters, never allowing them to feel stale. Reaching its final arc, the comic did a great job of building up Thrag as a sinister enemy who would not stop until he had blood on his hands. Seeing Mark and Eve, who just started their new life along with their daughter Tara, be ripped apart after coming so close to death was a terrifying event that solidified Thrag as the final enemy against Mark. Seeing Tara crying in front of the dying bodies of her parents was nothing short of heartbreaking and created a great example of the new stakes which the heroes would have to fight for. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.